Imagine buying your dream home. You move in, you paint the walls, you hang your pictures, you start your new life. But there's this one little problem. A weird, sweet, almost rotten smell coming from the hallway. You tell yourself it's just old insulation, maybe a dead rat. But the smell doesn't go away. It gets worse. Every single day. Until one night, you decide to find out where it's really coming from. You press your ear to the wall, and you hear something. Not scratching, not dripping, breathing. That's the moment you realize the previous owners forgot to mention something. And trust me, what's behind that drywall isn't just a dead animal. It's a secret that's been hiding there for years, waiting for someone like you to come along and tear the walls down. This isn't a horror movie. This is exactly what happened in a quiet, peaceful neighborhood in Cincinnati, Ohio back in 2019. A young couple, Marcus and Rachel, had just closed on a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial house. It was priced way below market value. The realtor said the owners were motivated to sell. It seemed like a steal. The house was old, but charming, with original hardwood floors, a big backyard, and this one weird storage room on the ground floor that was already drywalled shut. The home inspector even made a joke about it. He said, "Looks like they sealed up the ghosts in there." Everybody laughed. Nobody thought twice about it. For the first 2 weeks, everything was perfect. Then Rachel started noticing the smell. At first, it was faint, just a little stale. She thought maybe the previous owners had a pet. She scrubbed the floors, she opened the windows, she even bought air purifiers. But the smell only got stronger. It was this thick, sweet, biological smell. Not like death exactly. More like decay, covered up by something chemical. And the hallway, right next to that sealed room, it was always cold. Even in the middle of summer, that one spot on the wall was freezing to the touch. Marcus tried to be logical about it. He said it was probably a ventilation issue, maybe a dead raccoon in the ductwork. He was a practical guy, an electrician by trade. He didn't believe in bad vibes or haunted houses. But even he couldn't explain why their dog, a Labrador named Scout, would just sit in the hallway and stare at the wall for hours, letting out this low, constant growl. It wasn't an aggressive growl. It was a fearful one, almost like Scout was warning them. One Friday night, Rachel couldn't sleep. The smell had become unbearable. She shook Marcus awake and told him, "We need to open that wall, right now." Marcus was tired, but he could see the fear in her eyes. So he went to the garage, grabbed his sledgehammer, and stood in front of the sealed room. He knocked on the drywall. And here's the thing that still gives him chills to this day. He knocked 3 times, and something inside knocked back. He froze. He told himself it was the pipes. Old houses have noisy pipes. He told Rachel to stand back. With one hard swing, he broke through the drywall. A wave of that sickly, sweet smell hit them instantly, so strong they nearly gagged. But it was too dark to see anything. So he used his phone flashlight. The beam caught the edges of the hole, the dust floating in the air. And then, something that didn't belong there. A blue plastic tarp, just hanging there, suspended from the ceiling beams. And on that tarp, there was a dark, reddish stain that had seeped through. Now, if you're watching this, you're probably thinking the same thing Marcus thought. Don't open the tarp. Call the cops. But human curiosity is a powerful thing. Maybe the most dangerous thing. Marcus grabbed the edge of the plastic, and he pulled. What fell out of that wall changed their lives forever. It wasn't a body. Not yet. It was a suitcase. An old, dusty, vintage leather suitcase. And it was locked. What they didn't know was that by prying open that suitcase, they weren't just solving a mystery. They were opening a door to a crime that someone in that very neighborhood had been trying to keep buried for over a decade. And the person who did it, they were still watching. I want you to imagine the silence in that hallway. Marcus and Rachel are standing there, breathing heavy, staring at the suitcase. It's heavy, really heavy. They drag it out into the living room, under the bright lights. And now they can see what the darkness was hiding. The lock isn't just any lock. It's a heavy-duty brass padlock, scratched all to hell. And there are words, Faint ones, written on the leather in black marker. Most of it is faded, but Rachel can just make out one word, a name. Sarah. At this point, Rachel is begging Marcus to stop, but he's past the point of no return. He grabs a screwdriver, wedges it into the lock, and after a few hard twists, the lock snaps open. The sound echoes through the empty house. He lifts the lid, and immediately, he drops it. He stumbles back, covering his mouth. Inside that suitcase, there is no treasure, no money, just clothes. Little girls' clothes, dresses, socks, a tiny pair of sneakers. But that's not the worst part. The clothes are stained, dark, rust-colored stains that can only be one thing, dried blood. And at the very bottom of the suitcase, there's a photograph, a Polaroid. It's a picture of a little girl, maybe 7 years old, smiling at a birthday party. She has blonde pigtails, missing a front tooth. And on the back of the photo, someone had written a date from 13 years earlier. Suddenly, every strange thing about this house starts to make sense. The sealed room, the low price, the neighbors who always turned away when Marcus and Rachel said hello, the way the old man across the street would just sit on his porch and stare at their house, never waving, never smiling, just watching. Marcus calls 911. He can barely speak. The operator tells them to get out of the house immediately. And within minutes, the street is flooded with police cars, red and blue lights spinning in the dark. The officers step into that hallway. They see the hole in the wall, they see the suitcase, and they go pale. One of the older detectives, a guy who had been on the force for 30 years, he takes one look at that Polaroid and he whispers a name. Sarah Miller. That name. It was a ghost story in Cincinnati, a case that had gone cold years ago. A little girl who vanished from a birthday party without a trace. Nobody ever found her. Nobody ever found her clothes. Until now. And as the police tape off the house, as the forensic team arrives in their white suits, Marcus notices something that makes his blood run cold. The old man from across the street. He's still sitting on his porch. But now, he's not just watching. He's smiling. And in his hand, he's holding something. A pair of yellow hair ribbons. The same exact ribbons that little girl in the Polaroid was wearing. Now, here is where the story takes a turn that nobody expected. Because when the police finally go to question that old man across the street, they find his house empty. The back door is wide open, but on his kitchen table, there's a letter. And what that letter says connects this house, that suitcase, and a string of disappearances going back 30 years. But that's a story for part 2. As you sit here right now, I want you to look around your own room. Look at the walls around you. Those 4 walls that keep you safe. Do you really know what's inside them? Because someone else might. And they might be waiting for you to find it. If this story gave you chills, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss part 2. Trust me, the secret that old man was hiding is way darker than a suitcase full of old clothes. I'll see you in the next one. The letter on that kitchen table wasn't handwritten in some shaky old man's script. It was typed clean, precise, almost like a business document. And the first line sent a chill down the spine of every detective in that room. It read, "You finally found Sarah, but you haven't found the others." The old man's name was Walter Finch. He had lived in that house across the street for over 40 years. Nobody knew much about him. He kept to himself, paid his bills on time, never caused any trouble. But behind that quiet, unassuming mask was a monster hiding in plain sight. The police tore his house apart, and what they found in his basement was the stuff of nightmares. Maps. Dozens of maps pinned to the walls, covered in red circles. Each circle marked a house. And in each of those houses, according to his own meticulous notes, he had hidden something inside the walls. You see, Walter Finch wasn't just a killer. He was a builder. Before he retired, he worked construction. He helped build half the homes in that neighborhood. That meant he knew every blueprint, every crawl space, every hidden nook where a secret could stay buried. He knew exactly where to put things so they'd never be found, and he'd been doing it for decades. The suitcase in Marcus and Rachel's wall was just the beginning. Over the next 48 hours, Search teams with cadaver dogs and ground-penetrating radar descended on that quiet Ohio neighborhood. House after house, wall after wall, they started finding things. A shoebox in a bathroom wall 2 streets over. A duffel bag stuffed above a garage ceiling. A sealed plastic barrel buried under a basement floor. Each one containing the same things Sarah's suitcase had: clothes, photographs, and the remains of children who had vanished without a trace, some going back to the late 1980s. 7 houses, 8 victims, all within a 1-mile radius. And the families living in those homes. Good, innocent families. They had no idea they'd been sleeping next to the evidence for years. But that still leaves one burning question, doesn't it? Where was Walter Finch? The police issued an immediate nationwide manhunt. His face was everywhere. The quiet old man from Cincinnati was now America's most wanted fugitive. For 3 days, there was no sign of him. No credit card activity, no phone pings, nothing. It was like he simply vanished into thin air. Then on the 4th day, Marcus and Rachel got a letter. It was addressed to them personally, to the new owners, and it had no return address. With shaking hands, they called the police. When the detective opened that envelope, inside was a single photograph, a Polaroid, just like the one in Sarah's suitcase. But this time, the picture wasn't of a victim from the past. It was taken recently. It was a photograph of their own house, their living room window, with them inside it, and written on the back in that same clean, precise script were just 4 words. The walls remember everything. That was the moment they realized Walter Finch hadn't fled at all. He was still there, watching, waiting, probably enjoying every second of the chaos he had created. The FBI profilers theorized that Finch wasn't hiding in some distant state. He was hiding somewhere he felt safe, somewhere he knew better than anyone else, inside the walls. Not Marcus and Rachel's walls. They had already torn those open. But somewhere in that neighborhood, inside one of the dozens of houses he had built with his own 2 hands, there was a space that wasn't on any blueprint, a hidden room only he knew about. And that's exactly where they found him. 5 days after the suitcase was discovered, a SWAT team raided an abandoned property at the edge of the subdivision. It was a house Finch had kept in his own name, listed as a storage property. Inside, behind a false wall in the attic, they found a small, windowless room. It had a cot, a supply of canned food, a battery-powered radio, and pinned to the wall, staring right at the entry point, was a Polaroid of Marcus and Rachel, taken from the street on the day they moved in. He had been watching them from the very beginning, just waiting for them to find his twisted little time capsule. When the officers pulled him out, Walter Finch didn't resist. He didn't scream or cry. He just smiled that same cold smile and said something that will haunt every person who heard it. He said, "You only found the houses I wanted you to find." And that's the part of this story that keeps people up at night. Because Walter Finch helped build more than just those 7 houses. Over his 40-year career, he worked on hundreds of homes across 3 different states. He died in prison 2 years later, taking his secrets with him. To this day, nobody knows exactly how many walls are hiding a secret, just like Sarah's suitcase. Somewhere, right now, a family is cooking dinner, watching TV, putting their kids to bed, and they have no idea what's just a few inches away, sealed behind a layer of drywall waiting to be found. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you hear a strange noise in your house, a creak in the floorboards, a scratch behind the wall, just remember Marcus and Rachel. Remember that sometimes the safest place in the world, your own home, is the one place you should be most afraid of. And if you ever decide to renovate, and you find a wall that doesn't quite make sense, maybe just leave it alone, because some secrets are better off staying buried. Thank you for watching this 2-part story all the way to the end. If you made it here, drop a comment with the word wall, and let me know what you would do if you found a locked suitcase inside your house. I read every single one. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because there are plenty more stories where this one came from, and I don't want you to miss what's coming next. Until then, stay safe, and maybe don't go knocking on any walls tonight.